Welcome, horror fam, to HHN 365, a Halloween Horror Nights podcast. My name is Mike, and I'm here with my co-host, Duff.
Hey, I'm going to Hollywood. This still isn't official. If you know this joke from last time, but I'm going. It's happening.
And our producer, Nico.
Hey, howdy, hey.
As always, you can find us on social media and Twitter and Instagram, HHN 365. And you can always leave us a voicemail at 407-906-3405. On today's show, we will have our final pre-event episode of our HHN Hollywood series with Jonathan from the Hauntline. How is it going, Jonathan? Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to be on. This is the highlight of my day. I was looking forward to it all day, and it's going pretty good. Things are coming together. The event is happening. We're seeing little things pop up in the scare zones now. Walls are going vertical in different areas of the park. So, it's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
We have a lot to talk about. You basically, everything has been announced for the most part, right, Jonathan? For the most part, everything?
Indeed. Yeah, everything that we have been kind of speculating for the past couple of weeks has now been officially announced. And I'm excited to be there. Opening night in the fog with the flamethrowers back, everything, the whole shebang. I'm very, very stoked.
All right. Well, I think that's mostly what the show is going to be today. Sounds like for the most part, there's not really any Hollywood or Orlando news, right, Duff?
Nah, not really.
No. Then let's just hop right into the news for Hollywood, which is basically our main segment. And at the end, we're going to do our hype list for Hollywood as well. And just kind of round out the pre-event stuff for Hollywood and just be ready for the opening night.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, Duff, where do we want to start?
I guess with the announcements that we said what they were last week, but let's actually get into
let's talk about it.
Yeah. So let's start with the houses. Well, the house, depending on how you look at The Walking Dead, I guess.
I believe they're called mazes.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. We'll start with the maze. Yeah, what's the name? We just talked about this off mic before, and I still fucked it up. Jesus. But the maze announcement we had was for Halloween 4. So that's going to be over in the Waterworld tent. I don't. Do you call it tent? I don't know if you call it the tent. I just said that.
Waterworld Q. I think that
Q.
one we call a Q because it's technically not really a tent.
Okay, so in the Waterworld Q, you have Halloween 4. As you may remember, this was long rumored to be Halloween 3. Then that stuff started. Well, it was probably more than rumored because we saw what was on the facade. So, yeah. Then it even hit a Halloween Kills rumor, I believe. Now it's ended up at Halloween 4.
Yeah, what a journey.
Truly. They kept us guessing at every corner, man. Like every turn, it was something new. But I think mostly, for the most part, I'm just like super shocked that Halloween 3 was actually coming together. Like it was actually probably going to happen.
I think my biggest disappointment, like across Horror Nights on any coast, is that Halloween 3 did not end up in Waterworld.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone. I think there was a lot of people, Orlando-based people, who are about to make that trek over to Hollywood for this Halloween 3 house. I think it had a lot of people excited, and for this to kind of not end up happening, I think there's quite a few disappointed folks in the HHN community.
And it was really going to be one of those few rare times where Hollywood got something that Orlando didn't. For it to be such a one-off movie, kind of, it's the weird stepchild in the Halloween franchise. But I watched it for the very first time this year. I guess, it was this year during HHN at home, and I loved the movie. So I was super stoked at the thought of it coming to Horror Nights, and man, I'm so bummed that it's gone.
Yeah, I was excited to see how they would pull that off. It was gonna be fun. Maybe down the road. And we've seen in the past when something gets shelved, we see it return a couple of years later. So maybe they'll keep because it seems like they were pretty far in development.
Oh, I mean,
for Halloween 3, right?
They had Silver Shamrock right on the facade. All right, before we carry on, let me just read the blurb real quick before we forget.
Okay, all right.
Yes. Apologies.
Evil has returned. Michael Myers has escaped, and he's on his way back to Haddonfield, spreading blood and mayhem in his wake. Your only hope is Dr. Loomis, Myers' fire-scarred former psychiatrist. But he will get... Why'd I read it like that? But he will get there before it's too late. It's clear that this time, Michael Myers is unstoppable.
Dun, dun, dun.
I like that.
I mean, it's a description of the movie Halloween 4 for sure. Yeah.
I mean, there's something to be said about having a Halloween house that actually has Michael Myers in it, right? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Halloween 3 would have made an amazing house, but I think there would have been some casual fans that would have been a little disappointed.
I mean, I'm not fully convinced they wouldn't have snuck Michael Myers in as kind of like a, yeah, well, he was on the TV, you know.
I mean, yeah, they probably.
I think they would have snuck him in.
Yeah, they would have done that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in the movie, there is a trailer for Halloween throughout, or like a couple of times, right?
Yeah.
And that's what kills me too, is just like that we won't know unless they bring the franchise back, which God, I hope they do. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that Halloween 3 makes its way back to the Horror Nights lineup, even for you guys in Orlando as well. You know, we just won't know. I was so curious to see how they were going to play out that movie in the maze, but you know, either way, there's something definitely to be said about franchise fatigue, especially here in Hollywood, because we do have a lot of repeat franchises. However, anytime we get a Michael Myers experience, a maze, or anything, I'm super stoked. Like, that is the one exception in my rule where I'm like, Halloween at Horror Nights is perfect for me.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
I agree.
You guys had this in 2018, correct? Like
Correct.
And then I believe we talked about this on our previous Hollywood episode, and that's John Murray basically said it's going to be basically the same house. How are you feeling about that?
I get it. I'm a little disappointed. Like, the creative person in me wants to see, like, oh, how can they spice it up? You know what I mean? But I totally get it. I mean, again, 2020 was such a rough year for not only theme parks, but just live entertainment in general. So they're cutting corners wherever they can. I mean, Orlando obviously had an awesome event planned, and you know, so they're moving forward with their plans for that. However, Hollywood was kind of back and forth. There was a lot of changes, so I totally get why they aren't going to do too much to like really spice it up. It's a bummer, but again, I think part of me is still like, all right, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about how we have to give Hollywood a pass for bringing back stuff.
Yeah.
Sure. Like, under the conditions we've had, it makes complete sense. But in 2018, how'd you feel about this house specifically?
You know, this one was fun. I'm honestly not super familiar with the property, Halloween 4. I watched the first one, and then I watched some of the earlier, the remakes, right? The ones that came out a couple of years ago. Halloween 4, I wasn't super familiar with. But again, to me, it's just the excitement of having Michael Myers at Halloween Horror Nights. So I have a good time every time. And, you know, I really enjoyed the maze. I love that they kind of snuck in a little bit of Halloween 3 in there, just you know, just a little tidbit of it. So I thought that was pretty fun. And again, I'm always happy to see Michael Myers at the event.
Now, Duff, correct me if I'm wrong. Orlando has actually also had a Halloween 4 house as well, right?
Yeah, we also did in 2018 for HHN 20.
Okay, so this was a shared house on both coasts.
Yes, and this was by far our worst representation of the franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, that's popular opinion. It's not even like debated. I mean, it might not even because what the property is, what the specific movie is, but it was in the Shrek Theater when the other two just had better locations, to be honest. A Sprung Tent and then also Parade Warehouse. So, you know, those are just better locations for houses like this, in my opinion.
Yeah, you know, I'm kind of bummed when I went in 2018. That was actually my first year in Orlando. I skipped this one all out. Like we didn't have time for it. We somehow managed to squeeze in like most of the mazes or houses. Sorry. Most of the houses in one night and without like express or anything. We did pretty good. However, Halloween 4 was a casualty for us in Orlando. So I'm kind of bummed that I skipped out on it because I do always love kind of seeing how each coast interprets the property, especially when they're shared like that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, actually, I did Halloween 4 that year. I was in Hollywood. From what I remember, this was one of the more similar takes they've ever had.
Very interesting. Wow.
The approach was the thing is, for Halloween, as a franchise in general, I don't know how different of approach you can take.
Right.
And I think they both suffered from the same issue where with this specific property it was just a bunch of Michael Myers popping up everywhere.
Yeah,
really.
yeah. That's definitely pretty consistent with all the Halloween mazes we've had here in Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, and they did well here in obviously 2014 for Halloween, which is widely considered one of the best IP houses Orlando has ever had. But yeah, was Hell Comes to Haddonfield and then Halloween 4, same issue. Just it's just kind of overkill when there's Michael Myers every corner you turn.
Now, Jonathan, I have to ask. You said you had to skip this one, but did you hit up a Horrors of Blumhouse instead? And do you feel bad about that?
That was actually the other casualty.
Okay, all right, then you're good.
That's a
okay,
good
cool, good.
If you have to skip 2, then those are
okay, good. I'm glad I made the right choice.
You skipped my worst, my 9 and 10 house of the year.
Dang!
Well done. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm
Halloween
proud of past me.
Yeah, Halloween 4 was 9 and Blumhouse Volume 2 was 10. So
damn.
Well done.
All right. Anything else to add to Halloween before? Because if we spend this much time about each one, we're gonna be here for like 3 hours.
We're always here. That's what we do. It's fine. But no, I'm done with Halloween.
Yeah, you're gonna see Nico just drop out at some point.
You ain't getting the file.
Usually Craig drops out first. Tonight's Nico.
Yeah.
Nico's just gonna put it on mute and just like lay down and just like go to bed. And he's just gonna text one of us to be like, "Let me know when you're done," and I'll wake up and
I'll take care of the rest.
Yeah, a little inside baseball. We are recording pretty late here on the East Coast time, and Nico is an early riser and early worker, so he's always a good sport when we record late.
That's what Red Bull's for.
Yeah,
we appreciate you, Nico. All the West Coast appreciates you, brother. Thank you.
That's the first time the West Coast has ever acknowledged me in a positive way. That is.
All right. What else announcements did we get?
So this next one I know you're excited about for sure. Might even get you out to Hollywood just for this. We got
I wish, yeah.
Terror Tram, the Ultimate Purge.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think I mentioned on the show before, I am a sucker for Purge scare zones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. They're not always good, I know, but something about a Purge scare zone, I think maybe it's just because I spent a lot of time in 2014 inside baseball. I actually worked at Universal in 2014, so 24 when we had that scare zone, it just scratches an itch for me. And to see this Terror Tram, which is always something I've wanted to experience, and get it Purge themed, I'm excited for it.
Oh, I mean, first of all, you want the Terror Tram so bad in general.
I do.
This spreads uniqueness, and then also you get the Purge.
Yeah.
How you not already book a flight just for this? How's this not happened? You don't actually have to answer that. It's okay.
yeah. I'm not gonna get myself in trouble.
I do actually know.
It's because I have a family, Duff, and that's
I don't have one.
That's the right answer. That's the right answer.
All right.
Oh, you got one of those, huh?
Let me read the blurb they put out for it. The Terror Tram is back. Unfortunately for you, some of the most iconic purges from each of the terrifying Purge films have taken over and are running rampant. It's every man and woman for themselves as masked and costume marauders are out to ambush anyone outside during Purge hours. So climb aboard the Terror Tram at your own risk, because once you get off the tram, it's no rules, no laws, no escape.
Ooh.
So, I will hold off on asking the question I always ask, and what exactly the Terror Tram is, because I know you guys have explained it to me a couple of times. But, Jonathan, how do you think the purge is going to be utilized in the Terror Tram, and is it going to be kind of utilized how it's done in the past, or do you think they're going to kind of shake it up a little bit? Because I know we've talked about, we're a little bit curious about how they're going to do the Terror Tram this year. What are your thoughts?
Definitely. I think, first of all, I think that the Purge is a great choice, especially given the year that they've had. It's a pretty easy property, and it's a fun one. I have to say. And again, it's mostly, for the most part, it's people in masks with weapons swinging them at you, and then you can have some pretty fun little vignettes with people getting kidnapped or murdered or whatever, what have you, purged, right? So I think it's an excellent choice, especially because this year's lineup at Horror Nights is questionable at best for most people. You know what I mean? It's definitely controversial. I think the Purge is a great choice to kind of fill in that. And it's an original Universal property they could always use with no problem. And funny enough, in 2015, we had Terror Tram survive the Purge. And in my personal opinion, that was one of the best years of the Terror Tram, from a storytelling perspective, from how they utilized the sets, the routes. And there was awesome storytelling. In fact, that year they hired a heavy hitter here in SoCal Haunts, Ted Doherty. They hired him to kind of flesh out the story, and he did a great job with it. So that's one of my favorite years of the Terror Tram. So I'm actually pretty excited to see what they're going to do here. However, I think they may, for the most part, kind of recycle what they did in 2015, with the exception of one area that might end up being more of like a maze/gauntlet scare zone, as we like to call them, which is where the Whoville set used to be. That's now demolished. That's completely gone. And it's a pretty big area. Whereas before you would kind of just walk by the Whoville sets, I think now they're going to utilize that zone to kind of weave you in and out of a scare zone, which I'm actually pretty excited if that happens. And we do see a little bit of evidence of that because there's like construction fences that are going up around that area, which I could only assume means that we're going to get something Purge related in that area. So I'm actually pretty stoked for the Terror Tram this year. And it's not just because I did that documentary on it that I'm biased, but I'm actually pretty excited about it.
Yeah, one of the things I'm actually a little bit sad about, and you mentioned it, is everyone talks about how weird it was walking by those Whoville sets in the Terror Tram. And for me, I to not get to experience that. I think Nico has said it on the show. We like to collect bad experiences, and I think that's kind of one of those weird, silly type things that I never get to experience, and I'm a little sad.
I'm a little sad for you because it was definitely very, very strange.
Right.
Well, you do get to walk through the world set, so that's like makes sense, but also like it's
thematically,
different. Well, like you get to walk through the set.
Do they put like bodies in the seats in the plane during that time?
They do. They
do.
Do.
Cool. I thought I was just making a
no. That's
a
actually
no. They actually do. Fun fact: one year they put a body in like one of the windows of the buildings, and they totally forgot to take it off after the season. So you'd see some legs sticking out of one of the windows for a while on the regular day operations tour, and that's pretty fun.
It's always good to have a little leg.
Oh,
And I should mention there was a release video for this. There was for Halloween 4 as well, but Halloween 4 is you can imagine what it was. Like that's easy. This one specifically states that there will be purgers from the past, and also the Forever Purge will be included. So tying into the newest property in the franchise, and the last one I believe as well. So, supposedly we'll see if that actually is the case.
And congratulations to them, because now when I hear the Forever Purge, I can't not hear that guy say the Forever Purge.
Right?
Yeah. So. I don't know why I need to bring this up, but I am. The announcer or the commentator or the guy who talks in the announcement videos this year, whatever you want to call him, he took a very weird approach to all of them. Like, just the way he delivers everything is very strange for Horror Nights announcements, but I also appreciate it at the same time because it's so different. So, kudos to him.
Shout out to you, announcer guy.
Do we have
right.
Anything else about the Terror Tram?
Yeah,
I think Mike could go on for a while, but I think he's
Oh, I
gonna wait.
could absolutely, yeah. But I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about the Terror Tram when we get to our hype lists, because we're gonna try to figure out how to lump it in there somewhere.
Yeah. It's
I think
Mike's
it
number
deserves
one.
to be.
It doesn't matter what the list is; it's his number one.
Probably, yeah. If we did it like that, yeah, it would probably be my number one. All right. Moving on. What else did they announce?
So yeah, well, we'll go with the most exciting one, of course. Next, that's the Walking Dead attraction.
All right. Moving on. What else?
All right, Universal Monsters Silver Screen.
Yeah. So the Walking Dead attraction is coming back. I think
We knew it.
this was the first thing that kind of leaked out from Hollywood last year. Actually, if like more than a leak, they literally came out and said the Walking Dead attraction, or they said the Walking Dead will be involved in HHN 2020, and we kind of knew what they meant. Well, at first we didn't. At first we were worried it was going to be a house, and then we kind of put everything together and realized it was the attraction.
Yeah. I was gonna say, Duff, I believe this might be the first announcement on both coasts. Like we knew about this.
Yeah.
Like I think it was not too
They
far.
said this like March 2020.
Yeah, it was like very
it was
early
really
on,
early.
and people were freaking out.
I remember this was like our first meme we put on our Instagram about it.
I think so. Yeah, this was like the old days when we got this.
But yeah, I mean, I'll read the blurb, whatever. Enter the post-apocalyptic world of AMC's The Walking Dead. Prepare to fight for survival in a fully immersive journey as you navigate through a world overrun by walkers with an insatiable appetite for the living. Follow in the footsteps of the human survivors as you battle your way through nightmarish iconic landscapes that bring the most popular cable TV show in history to life.
There it is.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
Yep,
Well,
that's
Duff, do you have
Walking Dead, all right.
anything else to add about this? We have been thinking about this, knowing about this ever since the days.
No, they just need to stop announcing it like it's a house. It's a fucking attraction. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't I went in knowing that it was the first time I ever went through it when I went to HHN 2018 there, and they kind of hype it up like we put more scare actors in and stuff. And I went through it and I was like, that's not a house. That's no.
They love saying that, but in reality, what it is, it goes from one scare actor in the off season to 3 during Horror Nights.
Yeah. It was. I don't love it. I'll just say I don't love it. That's all.
Listeners, if you ever hear us do a Walking Dead attraction dissection, you know that we have nothing to record that week. Like absolutely nothing, and we are stumped. So
we've
yeah,
dissected all 246 houses that have been in Halloween Horror Nights already.
Yeah.
We're
So
done.
if you ever do a full show on like the Walking Dead attraction, you know it's been a rough week.
Hit me up for that one. I'd love to be a part of that one.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
So Nico, how excited are you for this?
We'll talk about it when we get to the hype list.
Okay, cool. All right, moving on.
Yes. Something we're actually excited about.
Yeah. So we scare zones. We got 3 of them actually.
Yeah.
So first one I'll go over is Universal Monsters Silver Scream Queens with the iconic Z that Hollywood loves to put on everything.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you know it's a Hollywood property and not Orlando, because there's a Z at the end.
Well, it is the best coast, so there you go.
Since this one's not like fully transparent about what it is, I'll read the blurb before we talk about it at all. The Bride of Frankenstein is bringing classic female movie monsters back from the grave to strike fear into the hearts of men. Sinister sisters unite.
Nice.
Nah, yeah. No, I know that a lot of people are excited for this one.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Outside of the jokes about it, I think the joke I made was the Queen's part reminds me of like Bratz. You know, with the Z.
Oh yeah. No, I wonder if the Z is because they were worried about like a cease and desist with our good friends over at the Scream Queens podcast.
I guess some things are like, nah, we ain't having that.
No,
we ain't having that.
Get the lawyer up. That's ours. They're like, okay, put a C just in case. Put a C, and we're good.
But yeah, no, I'm actually really excited about this one. It's a very different take on the Universal monsters. We get fucking a Noxuna Moon in this, so I'm hype already right there. You can stop there. I'm excited. Done.
Oh,
yeah, and those scare zones actually end up being a lot of fun. Most of the scare zones that end up kind of being attachments, or I guess you can say almost finales to the mazes that go in the Parisian courtyard. I think it's a fun concept. I do like it, and I'm excited to see what they do with it, even from a costuming standpoint. Again, they do tend to kind of go pretty ham for that scare zone, which is pretty exciting.
And we do know that Murdy loves his Universal monsters, so
that is true. Yeah, that I will definitely say this. You know, say what you will about John Murdy. However, anytime that he puts his hands on something Universal Monsters themed, he goes all out, and you can tell that there's a passion there. You can tell that there's a love for the franchise. So I'm very excited to see this scare zone, and of course, our version of the Bride of Frankenstein Lives as well.
definitely.
Duff, I don't want to go too out there, but do you remember back in just at the very, very end of when we first started in 2019? I don't even think the event was done, and we did like a way too early prediction show where we came up with like what we thought and made a game of what we thought would be coming the next year. If you don't remember, I had a list of like silly jokey ones, like honorable mentions, and I believe I said that I thought there would be a sequel to Universal's Monsters, and one of the jokes I said was the She-Wolf of London would be featured in that. Do I get a point for that?
You get a point. 2 years later.
2 years later in Hollywood in a scare zone, they are featuring the She-Wolf of London.
And I think so. You won. That's it. I don't care what the points are. You won just for that.
We really need to tally those up one of these
We probably
days.
should, but we probably got 1 point, and this is your 1 point. Done.
Nico, I'm sorry you did not get any points because I believe you predicted like a porno house or something.
Oh yeah, like an XXX house.
You predicted.
House.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is a very early. That was a single digit episode, I think.
Yeah. We're going on a tangents here, but yes. And I guess you could have got a point if they came back with a toxic tunnel and added 4 X's. If there's at least 3 X's, does he get a point there? But I guess he
it doesn't matter. Regardless, it doesn't matter at this point, I guess. Unless they drop it on the slate, we will see.
Yeah.
We'll
one of these days we'll go back look at that episode, and we'll basically try to give each other as much points as possible by kind of finagling things. And we'll do that. If it gets slow, we'll do that. All right. What other scare zones?
So the next one we have is Chainsaw Ranger. The blurb for this is: get ready to howl, roar, and bellow with fear as you're hounded by a bloodthirsty band of chainsaw-wielding maniacs wearing grotesque animal masks. I mean, that's...
yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone have any we have to say a couple positive things.
I like chainsaws.
It definitely wouldn't be Horror Nights without at least a couple of chainsaws.
There you go.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, the Chainsaw Drill Team is one of my favorite things.
Oh yeah.
About Halloween Horror Nights, or at least on our coast.
Lights, camera, action, baby.
No, Jonathan, do they have a Chainsaw Drill Team over in Hollywood? Is that something they kind of do from routinely? I
want to say it's like officially unofficial. You know, you guys have like a very official name for it. From what I recall, I want to say we don't have like an official team here in Hollywood. However, every season we do have people with chainsaws, and they'll do a pretty cool like opening ceremony at the end of the night. They'll kind of do like a scare out, if you will, where they kind of line up by the exit of the event, and they'll all kind of stand very idly with their chainsaws, like kind of just roaring, and then all of a sudden they'll all go haywire and they'll start chasing people everywhere. So I want to say there's a squad. I want to say that there isn't like an official name for them though. Yeah, now that you say, you confirm that there is a squad.
My theory is that they were trying to just kind of have another official named scare zone, and they like, well, we have this chainsaw drill team that we are going to utilize in staffing anyway. How about we put them in a specific area of the park, come up with like a name and put some masks on them,
Right.
and then we got a scare zone. Like,
We have
Right.
this wolf mask.
that's what it
toss
kind of
on.
feels like.
Have fun.
That's it. What it feels like. Which is not. I'm not a knock to it. I mean, I get you. You got to. This. We've talked about it. This year, you got to work with what you got. And if you have the chainsaw drill team, or and you put them somewhere, you come up with a name, and you got a scare zone.
And listen, I'll take Chainsaw Rangers over the Fallen Angels that was last 2019, I should say, because there's usually the chainsaws are always usually right at the entrance to the park, in the entrance plaza. And the Fallen Angels was like a biker gang, but they had chainsaws. So Chainsaw Rangers to me makes more sense.
Yeah.
This just seems very like Horror Nights chainsaw wielding people. Put some animal masks on them. I have no problem with this. It sounds very uninspired, but like it's Horror Nights. It does the job.
Yeah.
Right.
Now
this next one though, okay. I'll let you.
So this next one we have is Dante's Inferno. Oh, I'm sorry. No, Demon City. Apologies. So the blurb they have for this one is, this Manhattan neighborhood has gone to hell. A diabolical new nightclub, Inferno, has opened with demonic clientele straight from the underworld.
Nice.
Yeah, I have to admit, I kind of like it.
Nudes.
I have to see how it's utilized, but I feel like there's something here. I've always mentioned that I kind of like the nightclub houses or zones. I think that's a fun thing. Like, I think they could be utilized well when we get like a scary nightclub.
So I made the joke, but I'm dead serious about this. This sounds like they lost Beetlejuice, but they're like, we're still gonna have Dante's Inferno, just so you know. It's gonna happen. They called it Inferno, and there's actually already sets out, and it's called Dante's Club. Like,
yeah. Duff, you might be on to something here. I don't know. I haven't heard anyone else say that there was a rumored Beetlejuice zone. Okay, so there are people saying that there's rumored
not
Beetlejuice
rumored,
zone.
but like reacting to what this is versus Dante's Inferno. So
interesting. I've totally missed that myself. That's 2 and 2 for sure.
Yeah. So I think there's people rumoring that maybe there's even sets like Dante's Inferno set. I don't know if that's going to happen. We don't see that yet, at the very least. But it feels inspired at the very least by it.
Yeah, not to go down too far a rabbit hole here, but Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong. In the past, they have done that where they basically have a house and then you feed into a scare zone that's kind of lightly connected to that house. That's something they do over at Hollywood somewhat often, correct? Didn't they have like a Christmas zone connected to like a holiday house?
Yes, yeah. Holidays in Hell spilled out into I guess Christmas in Hell scare zone is what it was called. And then even in the past, certain areas, like for instance, one of the areas was Purge themed. And so it didn't like really connect to a maze specifically, but the IPs definitely spill out into the park. And in fact, Silver Scream Queens is going to do that. It's going to, you're going to go through the Bride of Frankenstein Lives, and that's going to spill out into the Silver Scream Queens.
You might be onto something here, Duff. I wonder if this was supposed to be now where this is located in the park. Now, I like Nancy Drewing everything. Where this is in the park, is it connected to where Beetlejuice was rumored to be?
No.
Like, would this make any sense?
Because Beetlejuice would have been in Soundstage 29, I believe.
Right.
So that would not have connected directly to this area.
I think right there is kind of the nail in the coffin to this thing.
I don't think. No, my thing is I don't think this was planned in advance. I think this is hey, this is a kind of cool idea to go with, and we don't have the property now, so let's toss it together. Because honestly, I think probably these scare zones, may not all of them, but these scare zones in general are kind of like, well, we kind of got stuck with the houses we have. What kind of scare zones can we throw together in several months?
Now, listen, I do definitely want to give Horror Nights Hollywood credit where credit is due. They could have very easily just repeated all the same scare zones we had in 2019. But so the fact that we're getting 3 brand new scare zones is pretty exciting. And also the fact that they're bringing the flamethrower towers back to Demon City, back to that area, that I'm super stoked on too, because we had flamethrowers there for a while. It's literally just a strip of truss with flamethrowers on them. And it's a small thing, it's a dumb thing, but God did it make the scare zone come to life in that the New York set area. So I'm excited to see that make a great comeback, and what a great way to tie it to the actual scare zone itself. You got demons, you got hell, you got inferno, and you got fire.
And I don't want to make it seem like I'm knocking the scare zones. So actually, I think it's a pretty strong lineup. I'm very excited for Silver Scream Queens. Demon City definitely has my interest. And Chainsaw Ranger, like I said, it was uninspired, but like it's just kind of Horror Nights. That's what Horror Nights is, you know? Some dudes in masks with chainsaws. Like, come on. Like, so I think that honestly, the scare zone lineup is like very solid.
Yeah, definitely not bad. It could have been worse. Is definitely where I'm going.
Especially with how it could have been this year. Oh yeah.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I believe up until this was released, Horror Night Nightmares speculation map still said no scare zones.
I think
correct.
The rumor was
they had released one before this that said like there would be, but they didn't name them at all. I think.
Okay.
But that was it. That was the first. So like several weeks before this actually came out, they finally put out that like we think there will be scare zones.
Gotcha. I still feel like the sentiment to my statement, like it was rumored for a long time that there were probably not going to be any. Definitely. No, yeah, you're right. I mean, for months we kind of were like, oh, is this just going to be an HHN light situation?
Right.
But you know, getting any scare zones at all, like you say, it's phenomenal just to have them.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else kind of announcement wise?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, there is. Okay. Yeah, I see it. I see it on there. You didn't put any blurb like
they didn't have a blurb. They don't have a blurb.
It just kind of
it's self-explanatory.
It's the Jabberwockies. Like, you know, they were popular 15 years ago on So You Think You Can whatever. What was it called? What show were they on? I don't even remember.
They've been on a lot of stuff.
Was it no, the original one they were on that made them big. Was it So You Think You Can Dance? Or no.
I'm sure there are some Jabberwocky heads
that are like screaming
that are very upset with us right now.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't care. I'm sorry. If that's your thing, that's your thing. But like, it's not my thing.
What do you call a Jabberwocky fan? A Jabba junkie?
Jabba junkie. I like that. Yeah. Let's go with that.
Okay. Yeah,
let's get that trending. I like it.
The Jabba junkies are really upset that we don't.
Oh no!
Today we have a really big shoe. The Jabba junkies.
Wow, we lost one listener. Fantastic. Seriously, apologies if you're a huge Jabberwockies fan.
Listen, they're a talented group of dancers, but why they're at Horror Nights is always puzzling to me. Their shows never connect to anything spooky. They're never Halloweeny, if that's a word. You know, it's just it's kind of a random, just, you know, people eater that they have every year. And I'll give them this much: their shows always fill up.
Yeah, I mean, it does the job for sure. And again, they are talented. I have nothing against the Jabberwockies. It just makes no sense at Horror Nights. The year I actually saw it in person was the year they did like the whole social media based one, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? What event am I at right now?
Oh, and outside of that, man, the Castle Theater, which is where they hold this show, super uncomfortable, man. Like if you're anywhere in the sections that are like in where it starts rising up in terms of seating, you're gonna have people's knees in your back. Your knee is gonna be in somebody's back. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it unless you're a really big fan of the Jabberwockies, or if you really like really, really, really loud music that people dance to on stage. So
I mean, putting Jabberwockies at HHN is like the equivalent of Disney putting a DJ on the train station at Magic Kingdom. It would just make no sense.
There it is.
Bling, zinger. He's got it.
I'm sad I don't have like a bell to ring or something. That was great.
Oh man, I should have had the soundboard up for that one.
Now do we have all of our announcements basically wrapped up, so we can kind of hop into our hype list?
Yeah, that's all. We
All right.
finished strong. We finished real strong.
We saved the best for last here at the HHN 365. All right. Well, I don't know if you guys are ready, but I'm ready. Let's get right into our hype list.
Actually, real quick, I want to talk about something before we get into hype list.
Sure.
So, Horror Nights actually had a decent presence at Midsummer Scream, which I know,
Yes.
Jonathan, you did attend yourself. Was there any specific things you wanted to point out that you enjoyed or anything interesting?
Yeah, I think it was really cool. For the first time ever, they did kind of like a very quick preview of the Curse of Pandora's Box, which was literally just like one jump scare. I thought that was cool. I really think it set like a cool precedence for the other experiences or haunts that come to events like that, specifically Midsummer Scream. Do that, like do little mazes. I think that's great. It's a great way to kind of advertise and to get people hyped for the event. So that was fun. It was very simple, very bare bones, but it felt nice, especially after not having the event in 2020, to get just a little taste of it, a little tiny taste of it. And of course, there was a really awesome panel day one of Midsummer Scream, where it was two members of the creative team that came on and broke down kind of the creative process. And it was cool to see people from the creative team that weren't John Murdy. No disrespect to him. He also gave it an awesome presentation, behind the scenes look at the Bride of Frankenstein Lives. Sorry. But I thought it was cool that they kind of broke down, who's who in terms of the creative team at Horror Nights. I really love that, and I'd love to see that more often.
And then I know for Bride, they actually like kind of broke down the entire house and its structure, right?
Oh yeah. Murdy took us on a journey, man. He really did. Like, he talked about his history with Universal Monsters. Then he broke down the maze from like, its inception, concept art, to like, he teased Slash's score for it, which really sounds
phenomenal.
Beautiful. Yeah,
that was
gorgeous.
amazing.
That got me so hyped for this maze. So it was honestly really, really cool. They did a great job this year, and the crowd loved it. They were so hyped for it. And actually, the roof popped off when they announced the Terror Tram. I mean, it almost felt like, The Rock's music hit and he was walking down the ramp at WWE. Like that. That's how the roof went off that building. It was cool, man.
And I want to say real quick, for those a few listeners who don't know what Midsummer Scream is and aren't near a computer to Google it, that's basically like a huge horror convention in California, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's like a Halloween horror convention, and a lot of the SoCal haunts, even a lot of the SoCal home haunts, and Halloween experiences have presence there. And it's also really cool. A lot of small shops come out and they sell all of their spooky products, and it's a great time. It's a really great time.
I mean, to be honest, as soon as they announced that Horror Nights was officially going to be involved, I looked to see if I could get off work to like fly out and make it.
Oh man!
Unfortunately, it didn't work. But yeah, I looked and tried to see if it would happen. But it's a convention that I definitely need to make. Hopefully next year.
Yeah, come out next year.
Capacity, that'll be great.
Absolutely.
Looks like it's normally in the Long Beach Convention Center. Is that they hold it in Long Beach?
Correct. Yeah, that's where it's been for the past couple of years. I believe they're coming up on their 5th year. So it's a pretty rather young convention, but it's really become a SoCal staple. So if you guys can make it out next year to Long Beach, I mean, it's huge. It is huge. So yeah, definitely come check it out.
Definitely in our plans.
Cool. All right.
Oh, did we lose him again?
No.
Oh no!
I was just waiting.
I was just also saw something about Pasadena Convention Center, so I am confused if it is in the Long Beach Convention Center or Pasadena, because I see both on the website here.
Well, Pasadena was that was this year's, right?
Correct. So actually, this Midsummer Scream that just passed right now, the Awaken the Spirits is what they called their convention. It kind of happened out of nowhere. We were only supposed to get one this year in December called Seasons Screamings at the Pasadena Convention Center. But just out of a stroke of luck, they were able to secure a spot for us in August for Awaken the Spirits. So it wasn't even like Midsummer Scream proper, but it was, Midsummer Scream presents Awaken the Spirits at the Pasadena Convention Center.
Gotcha.
In December, they're gonna have their little Christmas Halloween one, and then finally we're gonna get the actual Midsummer Scream convention next year at Long Beach.
Gotcha. So the big boys at Long Beach, but you have some
Correct.
branch offs in Pasadena. Perfect.
Yeah, the spin-offs. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. That's enough about Midsummer Scream. Duff, anything else to add before we move on to Hypeless?
No, I'm ready.
All right. Duff, do you want to kind of lay this out, how we're going to organize this?
A little different than last week's for Orlando's. We're going to have our maze list, of course, but we're actually going to tie in kind of zones, shows, like everything. Terror Train will all tie into one category, and then we'll have mazes separate. So rather than having everything separate, there's going to be one category for kind of everything that's not a maze.
And I believe we have decided to disqualify the Walking Dead attraction.
That does not. It would end up at the bottom of everyone's maze list if we did. So,
Oh yeah.
So
not to speak for everyone, but I think
the Walking Dead attraction, unfortunately, is not able to be chosen.
Good choice. Good choice.
All right. Well, who wants to kick it off? Are we going to start with the everything else list, or we want to start with the maze list?
Everything else.
Okay. And that is scare zones, shows, and terror trap, correct?
Yep. And we're going to start with number 5, so our bottom.
Cool. All right.
So just like Crypt TV.
I don't think it's fair to put Crypt TV in the same bracket as what I think you're about to say.
I'm just saying, Crypt TV was at the bottom of our list last week, all of ours, and I'm going to say it right now. I'm sure everyone's about to agree. Jabberwockies is our bottom, right? Everyone? Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to get off too tangentially, but you brought it up. I'm starting to get a little excited about this Crypt TV.
Did you start watching some? Is that what happened?
Yeah. Okay. I knew it would. I called it, but I'm starting to get a little excited about.
Is it not 5 anymore?
I don't know. It's done. It's been released. We'll see. We talk about this throughout the event.
Okay.
We'll see.
We'll wait. But is Jabberwockies your 5?
Yes.
I don't think there we go.
Yeah.
Did we have to say anything about that? I think we kind of made our opinion known enough.
Yeah, it's just Mum and Shantz with bucket hats. It's nothing much there.
I don't really have anything negative to say about the Jabberwockies. I think they appeal to a certain people, and I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong to have kind of a mood changer, kind of a lighthearted. I'd prefer it to be Halloween themed, but if some, I'm a big proponent of that. Not scary. Something to break the mood on.
That's why Bill and Ted was perfect. Except in Hollywood, they they crossed a lot of lines, so they long gone.
Is this kind of when they started getting the Jabberwockies? Is right around at that time?
That's exactly why they came to the park.
Right,
yeah.
Fair enough. I get it.
All right. So let's go to number 4. Nico, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. I think I've said in another podcast that I like chainsaws. But unfortunately for this one, just the description of the grotesque animal masks, not really looking forward to something like that. So Chainsaw Rangers is my number 4 of the rest.
Well, I'll follow you up because it's also my number 4. Not because I have a problem with it. Like I said, I think it's kind of a perfect epitome of what Horror Nights is. Mm-hmm. There's just not enough to it to make me excited about it compared to the other options.
Yeah. What about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Nico and Duff. It's we know it's coming. It's Chainsaws. It's Horror Nights. It's it's a given. So yeah, I think 4 is a great spot for it.
Perfect.
Yeah, I kind of want to just change it up, but I really can't because the other ones I'm actually pretty excited for. And I'm not saying I'm not excited for this one too, but you guys are right. I mean, the other ones have, I think, a little bit more going for this one. I do think I would enjoy this one though. As much as we kind of joked around earlier, I do think there's something to be said about just a good old fashioned chainsaw scare zone, and this one, it sounds like it stretches that edge.
Again, I think scare zones this year at Hollywood are going to be pretty solid around. I think there's a couple interesting concepts, and then you got this, which is just kind of, again, Horror Nights. Horror Nights fun. That's what it is.
Agreed.
I'm starting to worry that we're going to have very similar lists on this one.
Yeah. Let's start somewhere else. Jonathan, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is actually Demon City.
Oh, shit.
Damn.
Well,
go ahead. What are your thoughts? Why is it at 3?
It's cool. It's fun. There's nothing to it that's like super outside the box for me. So that's why I think right in the middle, it's pretty good. I'm hyped about the flamethrowers, but that's kind of where it stops. You know what I mean? It's fun. I think hopefully visually it's really cool. I really enjoyed 2019's Spirits and Demons of the East. So maybe Demon City will kind of surprise me from that standpoint. But yeah, it's number 3.
Yeah. I'm fully on board. It's number 3 for me as well. I think the issue here is that there's a huge gap between 3 and 4. But there's also a huge gap between 2 and 3. So,
right.
And anytime you put fire in a scare zone, which it looks like we're going to have in Orlando this year too, so I'm hyped. Very excited, but not enough to pass the other 2 options ahead of it.
Yeah, I have to say, if Demon City was actually a maze, I think this might be my most hyped maze of the year. This This scratches an itch for me. I think it would have been a really cool maze. I think as a zone, it's going to be really great too. But unfortunately, the other 2 things above it, I think I'm just a little bit more excited for. But I'm very excited for Demon City, and make it a maze. Make it a maze next year.
Listen, there's hope. It's been done before, so right. You never know.
Before Nico goes, let me add one thing that kind of keeps it down for me. So a lot of the props are out. It's a lot of static props. So that kind of drops it for me. It's a lot going on right now for static props. And if you know how I feel about Stranger Things Volume 2 last year, or Seasons 2 and 3, 2019, you know how I feel about static props.
And I will say that is kind of a consistent thing with the Hollywood scare zones. Lots of static props, definitely.
All right. Who wants to do their number 2? This is. I think
Nico,
this is where we might
technically said his number 2.
I got my number 3, which is Demon City.
I anticipated that.
Well, we need to hear his very unique thoughts that are very different from us.
It's pretty much the same with that. I really have nothing to add for this one. That hasn't already been said. I just am not looking forward to it as much as I am the next 2, which Mike and I might be tied on with.
We might all be. We'll see.
I'm so excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is this is if there's gonna be changes in this list, I think it's gonna be between 1 and 2 on this.
I think Mike, you should start with your number 2 because I think this is where there could be some flipping going on.
My number 2. I mean, I've already said it. My number 2 is Universal Monsters Silver Scream Queens.
Okay.
And that's not to knock this scare zone. I think this is a really cool scare zone. I think this might, if this was over in Orlando, I think this might be the top of my Orlando list, which is saying a lot because we have some great scare zones this year. But this and the Terror Tram, these are the two things that would get me on a plane and get me over to that event.
Damn. All right.
Hell yeah. Jonathan, you want to pick up the next?
Yeah. Number 2 for me is actually the Terror Tram.
Ah.
Yeah.
I
Finally have
thought
some
there-
difference.
Yeah. I mean, I guess for me, as someone who's been going to Hollywood for a while, the Terror Tram has kind of been a little repetitive in terms of the tricks they have. I'm excited for the prospect of this year them being able to change it up a little bit. However, given Hollywood's track record, I'm not exactly holding my breath. But I do think that the Purge is a perfect theme for the Terror Tram. So I'm excited to see where it goes. And that's why I think it's at number 2 for me.
Well, I'll follow you up because it is also my number 2. Pretty much because I've experienced it before. I enjoyed it. It's very unique, but it's not the most amazing experience in the world. Still enough to keep my interest clearly to put it at number 2. But my number 1's just, I think it's a really cool concept. So
Yeah.
Nico.
My number 2 is also going to be Silver Scream Queens. For that. Yeah, I mean, like you said, Mike, if this was in Orlando, I would absolutely think that this would be one of the best scare zones that we could possibly get. But yeah, just in this case, I'm not looking forward to it as much as I am the big one.
Oh,
Which
now,
we
Nico,
obviously know.
I didn't quite know just how excited you were about the Terror Tram. I didn't know you were a Terror Tram junkie.
I'm a hayride man. Like I'm a
Oh,
haunted
okay.
hayride kind of fella.
yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah.
like the evolution of that. Like just with
Yeah.
less straw and more Jimmy Fallon. So with something like that happens, I'm just excited for it. So so my number 1 is gonna be Terror Tram.
Oh yeah, we gotta get you over there before
I know.
the
Hopefully,
Terror Tram goes bye for good. Because I mean, there's rumors that this is kind of coming back because of what happened, and this is a Phantom that it was.
we already thought it was done
toast.
for good. Yeah,
It was like nail in the coffin. At least, I mean, that was a rumor.
That's what I got the feeling too.
Okay.
I kind of got that feeling as well.
So Nico, you know what that means? Book that flight.
This is
Let's
your
go.
last chance, buddy.
Come on down.
maybe if I'm out at, you know what? Maybe I'll make when I'm out at Vegas.
I was gonna
Oh,
say
look
you
up
are
there.
going to Vegas.
You're gonna
and
be
it's
not
that
far.
That is
Also,
true.
I'll come pick. Actually, I won't pick you up. Come
No,
meet
you
me
won't.
there.
No, you won't.
Oh, that's a trap. That's a trap. All right. I think is that everyone's other
Yeah.
list.
So that means Silver Scream Queens is obviously my top. I just a cool concept. I'm excited for it. Again, a Noxuna Moon. Like I'm a Mummy stan, specifically like a '99 Brendan Fraser. Rachel Weisz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a Noxuna Moon has me really hyped specifically.
Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be that Anoxuna Moon. However,
Well, no, but
same
you know,
vein.
the
Same
name.
vein,
I just need the name. That's because like where else does it show up in the parks? Never,
Right.
never.
Yeah.
Well, I need it.
Yeah. Jonathan, do you have anything else to add?
No, definitely. Yeah, I'm super excited to see what they do with it. I know that they named those 3 characters, but I think they're going to have a few more for us.
Yeah. I was
so-
just looking at that. They have those 3, but I can't imagine that there's a lot more to pull from. So I can't imagine that they'd have at least a few more.
Right. And again, from a visual standpoint, I do think that scare zone in particular, that spot has been pretty strong for the past couple of years. So I'm very stoked to see what they do with it. And I think it's going to be very beautifully costumed. I think there's going to be really cool things they do with masks and prosthetics. So I'm very excited for it.
And I feel like one more time I should mention John Murdy and Universal Monsters. Like it makes me hype. I know what he does with this property. I know the passion he has for it. So
Indeed.
excited.
Yeah, this is definitely his passion project. I think he loves the Universal Monsters. Some of the best houses that have come out of the last couple of years are, Universal Monsters themed, from what I understand. So I think that there's success written all over this scare zone.
I do wonder, maybe will we get a little slash in here as well? Maybe.
Oh,
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see.
maybe.
I mean, he's
Just a
done
little slash.
wonderful with the scores so far. So
Yeah, I think
Open
we
for
may
it.
get a splash of slash.
That's good.
I mean,
that's my favorite kind of splash.
I don't want to make this joke, but I
Go ahead.
imagine there's going to be a lot of slash on the internet after this scare.
Oh, man.
Oh man.
Oh, I'm sweating over that. Just you saying that joke.
Oh,
It was
It was
thrown
good.
out there, and I am a low hanging fruit.
It was good.
I-
No, it was
I
good.
had to pick it.
Well, you won't see it on OnlyFans. I'll tell you that.
Oh, rest in peace.
All right.
All right, let's go to the mazes. How about that?
Yay.
Let's do it.
Who wants to start us off? Number 6.
Who wants to
Don't
start
seem
us
so
off?
excited.
Yeah.
I guess I could go. Number 6 on my list is actually the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. All right.
Yeah. I think that was one of my first horror movies, like the remake that I watched in theaters growing up. So I'll be honest there. I'm not the biggest horror head, so I do have a soft spot for that movie in particular. However, the Maze, year to year when they come to horror nights, it's kind of the same stuff. It's the gore house. We see the same characters, we see the same gags. So I've never seen the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Don't come for me.
Ooh.
So yeah, I think it's at the bottom of my list just because we've seen it before.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think for pretty much the same reason, I actually agreed with you.
Ah,
I wanted to put it a little higher, but as you'll see shortly, due to locations, it got the shorter stick. So ended up at 6 for me. I don't think there's really a specific reason. I think seen it. I'm gonna see it in Orlando again this year on a larger scale, I'd assume, based on locations. So yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 6.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to agree with you guys. Basically for everything that's already been said, Jonathan, I totally agree with you. I'm kind of in the same boat. I am a lifelong haunt boy, starting at 6 years old, but I've never really been a big horror movie junkie. I don't have the same connection to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre as I would say most people do who attend this event, and it falls to number 6. Unlike the other iconic movie that is coming that I do have connection to, this one just doesn't quite scratch that itch to me.
We're gonna have the same 5 too. Great. Nico, what's your 6?
Mine is different. Mine is going to be Haunting of Hill House. It's going to be mine.
Whoa!
Just because I have absolutely no connection to it whatsoever.
Ooh.
Is why I'm
Interesting.
looking forward to it the least. And I think I've said that before. We're talking about it on the West Coast. Just looking at it there. That's going to be besides Walking Dead, the Haunting of Hill House. Yeah, just because, we're going to have it over here and no connection to the IP.
We need to find you a way to crash this 10-episode series in the next.
I know.
11, whatever days we are from now.
I
So,
know.
more homework for Nico.
Yeah.
All right, number
right.
5. We already know where I'm going, so I'll just say it. The Exorcist is my number 5. I think the only reason it got the bump over Texas Chainsaw Massacre is it did get the soundstage. So, a little more hype going into it, but it's a property I've seen before that there's only so much you can do with it. It was fine enough, I guess. I didn't love it, but it wasn't bad. And I just don't know what other direction you can take that I've already seen. So, slightly edges Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, I can go next. My number 4 is actually going to be the other.
Your number 1.
I'm sorry, the number 5. Yeah, the number 5. I misspoke. My number 5 is, and the reason why I misspoke is my number 5 is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
Oh, I don't know if that's a huge like classic movie, but okay.
I mean, it's a classic movie franchise.
Okay.
And I'm excited for this. When anytime Michael Myers shows up to the event, I get some nostalgia. But you know, from what I've heard from on both 28 in Hollywood and Orlando, that this was somewhat of a lackluster house, and have to kind of go by that when putting these together, and this is where it falls.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you there. That's actually my number 5 as well. Mostly, again, just because we've seen it before. Also, there's a little bit of resentment there that we almost had Halloween 3, but we didn't get it. Sure. And yeah, when it came out or when we had it in 2018, it wasn't the strongest maze I've ever been through. But yeah, there's the nostalgia factor in there for me as well.
And Nico, I believe you were the last to go.
Yeah. So my next one would be same thing. Halloween 4, Return of Michael Myers. When y'all were kind of describing the houses of like, it's gonna be Michael Myers at every turn. That's kind of was turning me off on this house. So it dropped a little bit lower due to y'all's pandering over this. So
well.
Not pandering. That's not the right word. Sorry.
I'll keep the Halloween 4 train going. Now that's my number 4. And I think there's just kind of a hope that I have that they understand that we kind of, we didn't love it on either coast because of its kind of consistent Michael Myers at every boo hole. And I'm hoping they kind of change that up a bit. I know that the actual layout's not going to be too much different in general, but I think, there are small tweaks you can make. And it's just the property I'm more excited about, and I think you could do a little bit more with than The Exorcist. So this 4 to 6 range for me is so tight. It could be interchanged easily, but Halloween 4 at 4, I guess.
Yeah. I think this is going to be the shocker for everyone. For my number 4, I am going for Universal Monsters, The Bride of Frankenstein.
Wow.
Hear me out on this.
Okay.
I think the reason why it is number 4 is that I am looking at this excitement of what would bring me to go to this event, and I'm getting to experience Universal Monsters, The Bride of Frankenstein live at Orlando, and I know that the Orlando one is going to be a little bit of plussed up. It's going to be a little bit more exciting. When I have to be reasonable here, when looking at the excitement, am I going to be excited about seeing something that I'm already going to experience, but just not quite as good? And that's kind of how I feel on this one. Get your pitchforks ready. Come at me. That's kind of how I feel about this one over at Hollywood.
Fair enough. Listen, I haven't gone through it yet, but from what I saw from the videos and from what I've heard from people, Bride of Frankenstein Lives in Orlando is just immaculate. You know what I mean? So fair enough.
Now, that's not keeping in mind that, like we talked about earlier, John Murdy loves his Universal Monsters. He loves using Slash with the music. So of all the things on here, the Universal Monsters, The Bride of Frankenstein is probably going to be the closest thing that's Orlando quality on this list. Everything else I said still exists, though. I just can't get excited for something that I am already seeing over on the other coast, and have experienced quite a few times already.
I think that's a fair reasoning.
Yeah. Nico, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I guess the next one on my list would be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. For there. I would put that a little bit higher just because, it's so funny that I put the chainsaw scare zone at the bottom of like the scare zones above the Jabberwockies. But yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre I think fits in right there. Like I said, I'm gonna have it on this coast. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it over here as I am over there. So
Now, Nico, I have to ask, does you being excited for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre have anything to do about the time that you spent living in Texas? Add to kind of the scary factor? Because I have to admit, if there was like some sort of like, I lived in Maine for a while, and if there was a creepy Mainer themed like Stephen King, type of scare zone or creepy Maine stuff, that I would be part of it, added to it.
that's an interesting observation there for that. I'm not sure. Maybe somewhere on a subconscious level, it might work that way. But maybe I'm not catching it up on the top of the dome.
Yeah, that question started out kind of as a joke, and then it just really didn't turn into one.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
That was serious. I was gonna say also, Nico's like actually seen people walking down the street with chainsaws and like he's, it's just a normal day for him now.
And remember, I also saw Jackal, which if you're playing along at home, you can go and put that on your bingo card.
Thanks, Duff, for yes-anding that joke there.
You're welcome.
Because Nico didn't really, you kind of left me hanging on that one.
Well, I was gonna say,
I couldn't tell if you're like bordering the line of serious or not for that one.
I grew up in South Florida, so if there was like a bath salts based house, that
there you go.
For me.
Well, we did have the Florida Man house already, and another allusion to that. May they rest in peace, haunt that we will talk about maybe one day.
Do you want me to just go and do my next one then?
Yeah.
All right. That's The Exorcist.
Wait, did Jonathan do his 4?
Did you not do your 4? Oh, I'm so
no.
sorry.
I don't believe Jonathan has. No,
but funny enough, number 4 is The Exorcist. For me.
There you go.
I think just selfishly for me, I mean, again, it's a really hard maze to do, house to do, just because so much of the movie takes place in one room. I did, however, enjoy Hollywood's approach to it in terms of like the room. There was a lot of cool effects going on in there, so I'm excited to see it again. But mostly, I'm excited to get it on tape, to get it on camera, because I'd love. I'm excited to see the B-roll I get from that maze, and for that reason alone, it's number 4 on my list.
I like it. Nico, you were already going into it, so go ahead.
The Exorcist. Probably one of the few things that I have a closer connection to, just because like I've seen this a couple of times, because when you grow up with cable in your house, this is one of the constant films that for some reason is always on cable. And yeah, I mean, what more can you say? It's The Exorcist, and it just seems like, what would be a good movie to base a maze around there. I caught myself.
Not The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it more than the others. I can't really say much more than that.
That's fair. No, you never experienced the previous maze, so that's fine.
Oh, okay. And maybe that's why I'm looking forward to it a little bit more, because I've never, seen what they can do with it, and I'm excited to see what they will do. The exterior looks really good. The facade, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's pretty much it.
All right. I will go next. I'm gonna kind of probably another shocker here. My number 3 is, and how much I am excited to see this at Orlando, but I think we've seen some things come out about this one over at Hollywood, and then I'm concerned, and that is The Haunting of Hill House.
Wow. What thing have you seen that you're concerned about? I've seen nothing.
I wonder what that could be.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a good house, but I mean, we're in the 3 territory. That's not knocking it. And my strategy here, it still applies with the monsters. I'm going to get to experience this over at Hollywood, and I know it. And so, I can't in good faith put it over these other 2 that I am just a little bit more excited about.
Very interesting.
I cannot believe the list you're creating, but I appreciate it for happening.
What?
I'm just shocked. That's all.
All right.
Anyway,
When I get to it, I will defend my decision.
I don't need you to defend it. I get it, but you're gonna do it anyways. But anyways, my number 3 is the Curse of Pandora's Box. For me, it's one of those things. I've seen it now through POVs. This is actually probably the first time I'm ever gonna experience a house that I've already watched. So that's going to be different. But it really looked solid to me. It doesn't have the full vibe of what I'm looking for. It was very vibrant and colorful, 3D-esque, I'd say, kind of colors going on, which isn't my favorite. But it did look like a solid house overall. It's an original I've never personally experienced. So those things itself kind of carry it to number 3 for me.
And Duff, I'm right there with you. Pandora's Box is my number 3 too. Mostly because it's the nostalgia factor for me. The design of the maze really takes me back to like the early days of Haunt when things were a little simpler. You know, it wasn't so scenic heavy. It was a lot of flat walls, and you know, especially the neon mazes. Those were always fun. It reminds me of like the early days of Not Scary Farm or the early days of Queen Mary Dark Harbor, which back then it was called Shipwreck. And that was my very first haunt that I ever went to. So it's the nostalgia factor for me, and it's a fun maze. I thought they did a pretty good job with it, and it's again one of very few Hollywood originals. So it has a special place in my heart, and yeah, it's a good time.
All right, Nico. I guess you'd be going to your number 2, wouldn't you?
Into my number 2, and it is a very familiar one and very on brand for me. Number 2, that would be Universal Monsters: The Bride of Frankenstein Lives.
Nice.
I've already waxed poetically about how much I really enjoyed this house and how much I'm looking forward to revisiting it again. To me, I thought it was that good. And you know, if like Universal Monsters from 2019 was around, then that would be near the top of my list as well, because I really loved this house. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it again, and I'm looking to see the differences between the Orlando version and the Hollywood version. So if there are any.
There is.
Okay. So I'm really interested to see like how how the West Coast does one of my favorite houses. So
I guess I'll take the next one. My number 2 is actually going to be Haunting of Hill House. It's a property I'm extremely excited for in general on both coasts. Mike alluded to earlier that the facade isn't phenomenal, but I think the location they have and what it is, it is what you'd expect from that location in Hollywood. I mean, I know that specific location hasn't been a thing, but from that kind of build, that's what you'd expect. And I think a facade is an important part, so that kind of drops it a bit, but I still have really high hopes for the house itself. And hopefully the two coasts take a different approach, but I haven't seen it on either coast, so I'm really excited on both fronts. So yeah, number 2, Hill House.
I'm going to piggyback right off of yours because that is my number 2 as well, Hill House. Mostly just because I saw what they did with the Crimson Peak maze, and they created a really, really beautiful maze interior for that movie. So I'm excited to see what the Hollywood creative team can do with The Haunting of Hill House. And I really enjoy the franchise too. And I thought when I was watching it on Netflix, I was like, man, this has maze potential to the T. And it's at number 2, I think, mostly also because I know that Orlando has set the bar very high. So I'm kind of being realistic with my expectations on this one, especially because I'm going to experience both coasts.
Yeah. And then real quick, I want to discuss this while we're here. Have you noticed that there's a lot of people who have gone and watched Hill House and went, I don't understand how this is a maze at all. And I'm like, what? Whoa, what? Because I had the same reaction as you. I finished this series and I went, I want to see this at Horror Nights. I want to see this at Horror Nights. It has to happen. I think it's a perfect maze. Or house, depending which coast you're on. But I've seen so many people on Twitter like, no, I don't get it. I don't understand how this is going to be a house in any way.
And I think people are hyper fixating on the characters and the story that Hill House tells, because it is pretty complex. And it does go a lot of places that are outside of the house. However, at least from the Orlando press release about Hill House. I think they're taking the perfect direction, making it about the house and the ghosts. And in that way, it's like, how could you not see how perfect it is?
Yeah. And I think, not that we're ranking between the two, I think that's the main reason that I put Orlando's hype above Hollywood's is the approach they're taking. Hollywood wasn't super clear on what they're doing, but it sounds more like a kind of book report on the series itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do appreciate that approach of like, you're just going into Hill House. It's not following the exact story of the series.
Right.
But again, even following the series itself, I'm hyped for. Obviously, it's my number 2 here. So
Yeah, well, I guess I'll go next. And now my number 2 is The Exorcist.
Oh,
that's so high.
Yeah, no, so hear me out here. I am actually a very big fan of the movie The Exorcist. I think it is not insane to say that it is some people's Citizen Kane of horror movies. It is. I am a really big film buff, and I think this kind of is slotted in as one of the arguably one of the best horror movies of all time, and in in the top 100 movies of all time. This is probably the best movie that has arguably one of the best movies that has ever been utilized at Halloween Horror Nights. I think.
What about Killer Clowns?
I think there's a few others. Yeah, I mean, my brain went to The Shining. I think is another one that people could say that is in that same breath. But those are kind of the main two that I would say. It's like when it comes to movies, and I personally did not get to experience The Exorcist on either coast when it came, and I'm pretty bummed I didn't get to experience it. And so the fact that it comes back here is exciting for me. It is basically something I've always been sad that I missed. I finally get a chance to potentially see it again, and that is exciting to me, and that's why it raises so high up in my hype list. I'm trying to ignore the fact that this particular house, I know the one in Orlando got pretty good reviews. I wouldn't say great reviews. I think there's a few people who have it a little bit lower, but there are some people who have it who really, really high. And Hollywood's house, I wouldn't say is quite on that level, but that I'm trying to put all that past. And I get to experience an Exorcist house. It's something that I'm sad that I missed, that I did not get to experience when it was here in Orlando. And that is why it's number 2.
Interesting.
I respect it, I guess.
I mean,
all right. No, go ahead.
Remind me, was this the Exorcist house like I haven't watched any POVs. Was this house arguably pretty bad? Like, do most people agree that it was?
I think it's considered a mid to lower tier house for the year. Generally,
of its year, it was like a lower.
Yes,
gotcha.
Mid to low.
What year was this over in Hollywood? Was it the same year that it was over here in Orlando, like 2017?
I think it was. Was it 2017 or 16?
2016.
Yeah.
2016. That was one of my highest on the list of 2016. I mentioned on the show, but 2016 was basically my daughter was born on I think team member preview that Duff was about to bring me.
Yeah, he was gonna. He's going to join me for Team Air Preview, and then, starting a family, it ruins everything.
Yeah, and then, I mean, that month was a whirlwind. Those last couple of months were a whirlwind, and I just never got to experience it for the next couple of years in 2019. So, so not only the next couple of months were a whirlwind, the next couple of years will whirlwind. So The Exorcist is definitely up there for me of something that I'm sad I missed and I want to experience it.
I mean, I think you're wrong, but I respect it. It's your hype list.
I can't when I ignore what other people say.
No, I respect that
about the IPs especially. I mean, I like if there was an original house and everyone would say that's trash. I would probably respect that, but this IP is something that I have always wanted to experience it, and I think we've established that. I do have sometimes when it comes to IPs, especially, we do have different opinions.
We do.
Of what necessarily makes a good IP house and what doesn't. I like to be walked through the movies. I enjoy being like, scene by scene, like I enjoy that from time to time in an IP house. I don't think.
I also hope you like walking circles in the same room.
I mean, that is where most of the magic happens. In that movie.
That's the problem with making a movie. Anyways, let's get to our number ones. Why not?
Yes.
Nico, kick us off.
Number one is going to be The Curse of Pandora's Box.
Oh.
It's the only one that is not based on an IP, and that's why it's the most intriguing to me.
Nice.
At least a IP that I'm familiar with. I don't know if it is or if this is a trend, like internal IP. Okay. That is the one I am interested in. That because, like I said, it's the only one that's original, so it's the biggest open slate, and yeah, just a curiosity shop sounds cool.
I think that's actually a great reasoning. I have no issues with that as a guy who unabashedly adores originals. So
yeah. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't go that way, Duff, because that's exactly how I went too. I'll just lead into my number one. Is that the it is the only original on here. Yes, it did happen last year, and yes, the POV is out there. I don't partake in Hollywood POVs. I know a lot of people do. I personally don't partake in them, just almost for this reason. Because there's always a chance that they may come back, and this year we get them all back, and it's my reasoning is kind of coming true here, so I don't partake in them, and this one sounds really exciting on paper. I'm kind of going in it. Just like I get the blurb, almost like it's an original to me on this. If this is excited me, Greek mythology. I'm excited to see this.
So, yeah, you would think I would pick it first, and to be honest, the only reason I didn't is because I have seen a POV of it. And with the other IPs I put ahead of it, I kept it down there. But Jonathan, we're going to save you for last since you're our local Hollywood expert now. And I'll my top is Bride of Frankenstein Lives. And that's because for the reason Nico actually kept it second is because I've seen how good it can be. So you also add in the fact that I get to experience it in a different way, in a different approach from someone who excels at this property specifically. How can it not be my number one? From how much I loved it and the potential that John Murdy, Mr. Universal Monsters, puts into it. Yeah, it's my number one. And I think my list wasn't hard to make, but like I looked at the properties and I went, yeah, this is my number one, easy. And I'll just figure out everything else after. Yeah,
I mean, it's a solid choice. I get why it would be there. What was I going to say? I had a thought that I was going to add here, which is why I chimed in, and I completely lost it. It is almost
12:52.
Almost 1 o'clock in the morning here. So we'll edit all this out, and I just won't even chime in because I have no clue what I was going to say.
Well, I will once again piggyback off of Duff and say that The Bride of Frankenstein Lives is my number one on my list for a couple of different reasons. Of course, like you touched on, this is John Murdy's bread and butter. You can really see the passion he has for the Universal Monsters. The Universal Monsters 2018 is probably my number one Horror Nights maze. That it's between that and Us, but I really love the Universal Monsters at Horror Nights. I think they're perfect for the property, and I want to see them come back time and time again. And also, it's cool to see the synergy between both coasts. I didn't think we were actually going to get The Bride of Frankenstein Lives However, this is one of the very first times in a while that Orlando has teamed up with Hollywood per se, in a way. And I'm very excited to see each coast's take on it. And yeah, I'm also very excited for the scare zone that connects to it. So it's very layered. Also, the artwork and the music they shared is gorgeous. So I'm very excited to see that in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like something you brought up is something I should have shouted out, because I've had the thought, is that typically when we share IPs, it feels like a kind of corporate, like, yeah, you both have to use this. It's an IP and we're going to share it. We got some money for this. Have fun. This is like John Murdy has literally said, like, this sounded really cool, so I want it too.
Right.
Like, it's something that we already know he's passionate about, the Universal monsters in general, but like the story itself, he's like, holy shit, that's cool. I would like to use it as well. So, he's like really digging this, and he's going to go all in.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I definitely get why you guys went this route. If this was a list of what I thought would be probably end up being the best house at Hollywood this year, I think it would be my number one. I think it has basically the inside track, the front runner here to be the best house, like for all the reasons you guys have already listed. Yeah, I think it's going to be very, very solid. All right. I think that basically that's everyone's list, right?
Yeah.
Didn't miss it? Yeah.
No, I don't have a secret house going.
All right. Well, is we got anything else to add about Hollywood before we start wrapping up the show?
No, I think we'll be back after the event happens. After it started, we'll have Jonathan back, and hopefully once we record that, I'll have been there at the very least. And if we get really lucky, even Mike and Nico. We'll see.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Jonathan, we always appreciate your insight when it comes to Hollywood. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Jonathan. What's down the pike for you? What you got in store for your listeners and viewers coming up?
Sure. Coming up, we have one more, our final Horror Nights update. Now that everything has been announced, I'm going to touch on a couple of the things that we touched on this episode. But outside of that, in the next couple of weeks, it's going to be a lot of reviews, a lot of SoCal Haunt reviews. So be sure and stay tuned for that.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, I love those West Coast haunts. Without going too down the road here, I know we lost a big one when it comes to the Queen Mary. And I mean, Scary Farm doesn't even have to be mentioned because we know what's there. What are some of the other real big ones? 2 or 3, if we have someone who's heading over there, one of our Orlando listeners heading over there for haunts, especially. What are some of the others they should check out?
Sure, you definitely want to check out LA Haunted Hayride. That one is an incredible experience. Yeah, it's a hayride, Nico. So there you go. They do actually have a hayride, and this year they're kind of getting a little bit bigger, a little bolder. They're doing a lot of renovations and a lot of they're revisiting a lot of the mazes and experiences they had in 2019. There's an all new storyline with the hayride, so that is definitely one that you would want to check out. And also one that I just got turned on to that has been around for a while, but it's actually interactive horror theater called Delusion. And this year they have an experience called Reaper's Remorse, which takes place in the 1950s. It's in a spooky house, and it's said to be incredibly highly immersive and also very scary. So those are 2 that you definitely want to check out.
Where's that?
That sounds good.
Where's
that, John?
Where's the second one?
I have to look up the location for that. Let me see. Give me a second.
Well, Jonathan looks that up. Yeah, this is right down my. I think Nico and I's like a theater geek background here. I love immersive theater experiences, and the spookier the better. This one sounds right down my wheelhouse.
Oh, so it takes place in the Phillips Mansion, which is an actual historic house in Pomona, in California.
Oh, even better. I
Wowie.
love haunted houses that are built in like historic buildings, like the one in Philadelphia that was built into the historic prison.
Yeah.
Those are always great.
Oh
haunts.
yeah.
Well, so you two are definitely coming out with me now, right? That's what I'm hearing.
I wish.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah. We'll save that for a Scary Farm show. But yeah, no, I would love to get out there. I've always wanted to go to Scary Farm.
We'll make it happen one year, gentlemen. We'll make it happen.
One of these days. Yeah. I don't know if this is the year, but I'll make it out there for sure. All right. Well, as always, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at HHN3625. And you can leave us a voicemail at 407-906-3405. Duff, before we wrap up, we actually know what our next week's show is because we were planning ahead. Do you want to give a little teaser of what that is going to be?
So without giving away too much, I mean, we're going to do a huge get-together of Horror Nights creators. Kind of get us hyped for it's gonna be our last episode before HHN. By the time we release it, it's actually gonna be 4 days till HHN. So yeah, just kind of a way to get us nice and hyped up. Ready to
basically it's just a round table look at everything that we need to know about going into to this event, and we want you to kind of listen to it while you're getting hyped and excited to the next day and go final experience opening night or a team member preview, depending on if you have access to that. So I'm really excited to record that.
Oh, it'll be great to have everyone together. Jonathan, we kind of only left you out of that because we're doing this with you, but
yeah, I mean,
we'd have you there otherwise.
You would have the invite, Jonathan. If
thank you.
If we don't want to have you to clear your schedule for us 2 weeks in a row, I think that would be a little too much to ask for you. So.
Oh, it's all good. I'm excited to hear you guys, you Orlando powerhouses, you East Coast powerhouses come together. It's going to be exciting.
I believe you were actually on our. What did we call that? Our basically
like the cancellation episode.
It was like basically our funeral. And I believe that you joined us for that. We've come a long way. We have come a long way, Jonathan.
Indeed. Yeah, it's exciting to not have to do another episode like that.
Yeah.
Instead, we got a whole series about Hollywood ready to go. It's perfect.
Indeed.
Looky there.
It all worked out.
All right. Well, before Nico just pulls the plug on it,
we're getting close.
Nico just looked down at the clock and went, "Motherfucker, Nico." I mean, stop talking. Please, I'm tired.
We'll see you next week, and we'll see you in the streets.